This area is so beautiful. I can't... Oh my gosh. Look at the sky map here. Hi everyone and welcome to the beautiful Fargrave. I'm getting kind of distracted here whilst we're waiting for the call to start because look at this beautiful map. But we are going to have a chance to have a tour with the devs around all of the DLC zone today. They're going to take us on a bit of a whirlwind tour of all their favourite parts of the areas and give us a rundown on some of the lore of the game as well. I'm really nervous because I get to hop into a call with some insanely talented people who have made this world that we love so much come to life. But hopefully I won't be a complete noob. We'll see. We will be focusing much more on the lore and the creative side of things because we have Jeremy and Tom with us, who are the lead content designer and the zone lead for the game. So lots of interesting things to be learnt from them. And we're also going to have Zynode on the call, who some of you, of course, will be familiar with. If you've ever followed an ESO build guide, you've probably seen Zynode's guides. He's much more on the mechanical side of things, so I'm interested to see what he's looking forward to as well. I just can't stop, like, zoning out, staring at the sky. Like, it's so pretty here. And obviously when we think of Daedric stuff in the Elder Scrolls universe, I mean, I often think of spikes and lava and people being evil, but Fargrave is an entirely different place. It's this kind of neutral zone which is filled with all types of Daedra and mortals, but not something that we've encountered in Elder Scrolls before. And it is strangely beautiful, but in this haunting kind of way. And I think you'll see that as we go further into Fargrave too.
All right, so this is the Deadlands DLC. It is our 30-second update, which is crazy to think of. It is the culmination of our year of storyline. We've had a lot of fun with our year ofs, and this is no exception. Let's let Tom be tour guide. We're in Fargrave. You just arrived.
Yeah. So, welcome to Fargrave, which has the nickname the Celestial Palanquin. We have basically come out where most players are going to either come via a portal in the vanilla game, or if they come through their first unlocked way shrine, it's going to be here. And we kind of wanted to set you out a little bit away from the city so you can really take in the otherworldliness. We actually have, you know, this huge crazy skybox, these unsettling bones, which are, I think, kind of like the key visual of the city, are all these skeletons threaded throughout the architecture. To let you know you're not in Kansas anymore, to borrow the phrase.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we also wanted to find the right balance of, like, you know, we're going to Oblivion. Oblivion in the Elder Scrolls has traditionally always been like a hostile place, a really inhospitable and just sort of, you know, hell, for lack of a better term, specifically the Deadlands that we saw in the Elder Scrolls Oblivion, but also like Apocrypha in Skyrim and so on. We wanted to create something that wasn't quite as immediately ominous, but still, like you were talking about earlier, it's kind of unsettling. It's a little bit, it's gloomy and weird, like in the weird fiction sense of the word weird. Right off the bat, you get your zone story. I don't know if you've already completed it, you won't be seeing this theater scene, but otherwise you'll see one of our key NPCs, the Anchorite, who's this hooded and masked character with glowing hands, dealing with Dagonist cultists who are kind of like causing mayhem and ruckusi throughout the city. Fargrave is a part of Oblivion that is not controlled by any prince. Daedric princes have no power here. The idea is that this is very much like a free state or an independent, you know, melting pot of Daedra from across all the various realms. And, you know, there's a handful of Daedric princes, but there's nearly infinite realms of Oblivion to explore. And this is sort of our first foray into one of those places that we haven't really seen. Please.
What you say is awesome. I just want to make sure you all look up and see the freaking 100-foot tall skeleton. He's kind of made reference to them, but to be very clear, they're littering the area. We don't know quite what happened to them, but if you take a look at these guys, it is a super cool kind of vista as you're moving through the zone. Anyway,
yeah, we wanted to
know what they are, or we will find out, or
we very consciously have no answer to that question.
Okay.
As far as you know, you'll never know. Yeah. At the moment, we definitely don't have an answer.
Yeah, people talk about what they might have been. Even the Daedra, I think, say that the skeletons were here when they first discovered this plane. It's one of those things where, I think the magic of Elder Scrolls lore is when players are able to kind of debate and wonder about these things, similar to like what happened to the Dwemer. Yep, exactly.
Mm.
So we worked with the art team. We wanted to have something that was really distinct to ground you in the idea that you were in like a magical realm, and we didn't want to create too many answers. But we do seed a bunch of possible explanations into the game. We never say definitively what they are. So this is sort of the main concourse of Fargrave. It's we call it the Celestial Palanquin, meaning that it kind of is able to go. It sits at an intersection of many planes of Oblivion. Those planes change in and out, so it gets the sense of like a wandering city almost. Like you can, in this particular instance, the city is adjoining the Deadlands, but you could access it from Quagmire or let's see, the Pit. I think is Periite's plane. Like it keeps moving where the portals to it go. Sorry, said poorly, but you get the idea. It has become this crossroads where Daedra will trade like spells and magic and items and curios and relics, and mortals too have been able to come here, by accident in some cases, or intentionally for people like the Sarathu Tong, who are these Dunmer mage groups or the Mages Guild themselves. And begun trading with the Daedra as well. They even have, they have souls and things that Daedra find incredibly valuable. So you can see that like the marketplace, the bazaar is sort of one of the kind of central grounding elements of the visuals for the city. All these stalls that are populated with curios and knickknacks. And the idea that it's sort of like a cluttered warren of markets and exchange and so on.
Sorry. What you were saying is awesome. Just they're enjoying the view.
Yeah,
which is great.
and there's a lot of crazy stuff to see as well. The art team really knocked it out of the park, along with what we call our citification team, which are the designers, writers, and world builders that help make the city go from just like this beautiful empty dollhouse to being alive and populated with NPCs. Yeah, and there's Daedra of all types that come here. So you see we have, Ogrim, we have Watchers. You can find them flying through the air. Obviously, there's Dramora and Zivali, and it's just all sorts of people.
I never saw that dude using the underside.
You looking at that as well?
That's so cool.
I've literally just focused on that. It's like he looks like a gremlin swinging on a tree. Going underneath the bridge.
Where is he?
This is, as he said, it's not Kansas. It's not, this is a different area. Yeah, that's really cool.
It's very bizarre.
Where's he hiding? I can't find him.
Look up.
You gotta look up. He's when he just walked away. He's on the path above.
Yeah, the bridge going across. Keep looking, and he'll run. He'll climb it. He's now coming back again, I think.
So one of the inspirations originally was the idea that this is sort of like a like a pirate Tortuga for Daedra, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
This is the place where Daedra go where they don't want a boss. So to that point, if you actually look on your Orbis, it shows up as a separate location because there's no boss here. So on your Orbis, you will see both Fargrave and Deadlands for this DLC. The idea being this is not attached to the Deadlands, so it wasn't right to add it to the to add it just to the Deadlands. It needed to be its own unique location on the Orbis.
Yeah, you can go backwards and forwards between the two as well.
I was totally about to say that. Yeah. It is
nice.
hot-spotted, so you don't have to sweat it. If you want to go to the Deadlands, you click it. Yeah.
And that also speaks to how we wanted to approach the Deadlands, which is obviously a hellscape, right? As far as anyone remembers. And we didn't think it felt right to have a safe place within the boundaries of the Deadlands for you to do like your trading and your merchants and all that stuff. It just felt inconsistent with how lore portrays the realms of Mehrunes Dagon. So that kind of gave us this idea for a separate entity where players could go to handle and see all their services and interact with friendlier NPCs, and that preserves the idea of the Deadlands as this inhospitable and terrifying place. We're going to come back here in a sec, but I just wanted to showcase. So, like I was saying, this is the Celestial Palanquin. This city adjoins many planes of Oblivion, and right now this is what we call the Plaza of Portals. It's kind of like your airport terminal for getting around to various places of Oblivion. Right now we have portals to locations in the Deadlands, and then who knows what might happen in the future. Like you might be able to go to Cold Harbor from here if it's in alignment, or other planes of Oblivion that we so choose.
And if you own Blackwood, there is a portal to Leyawind here. I actually
Exactly.
don't.
Yeah.
So I just noticed.
in the
I don't
middle.
actually see it.
I can see it.
But yeah, so because again, we're tying them together. So yeah, you can jump basically directly to Leyawind. It's kind of hidden behind the church.
Oh man, it's going back a bit, but it's like Plane of Knowledge from EverQuest, which is pretty cool.
Awesome.
That's
Yeah,
nostalgia
there
in
you
your
are.
face, that is. I like this bit.
This has been such a cool spot to make because I mean it challenges all our assumptions. Most of our assumptions are about humans,
Right.
humanoids, I
Mhm.
should say. These aren't even humanoids; these are day droids or something. So how do we do that is much different. So if you want to continue on, let's move into the crafting district, and we'll keep
Sure.
right on rolling
Nice.
because we haven't even left Fargrave. We definitely
That's
want
right.
to show you the Deadlands.
Yeah, Fargrave is huge actually, running around here earlier as well. There's
Yes.
so much space in the actual city too.
Yeah, we kept wanting to make it more. It's this is our first real look at Daedra in a kind of neutral light. I wouldn't want to say friendly because I don't know if Daedra are ever truly friendly, but
Like fake civilized.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
we wanted to see them. Like, what do they do when they go home from the battlefield for the day? Where do they hang their hats and their helms? And really exploring the idea of culture for Daedra. Like, what does that mean? And like Jeremy said, originally we did a pass to the city, and it was like, well, we can't put like baskets of cabbages out. Well, not for everybody. Like, there's obviously mortals here. Mortals need food. Mortals need water. But what do Daedra care about? What do they want to buy and sell? And they live forever. They don't eat. They don't drink. Magic is really what's important to them. And they have various infrastructure for mortals to live here because they need mortals at some capacity for trading with Tamriel and so on. So they do allow, like, obviously we're at the grocery right now. There's produce, there's cooking fires and things like that for the mortal inhabitants. But for the Daedra themselves, we wanted to make sure that it really made sense and was consistent with how we've treated Daedra in the past. Like, they're not just going to see a guy running around eating a turkey leg, unless he chooses to, and that's his, that's his right. But otherwise, yeah, we had to invent sort of a visual language for what Daedra buy and sell and trade and pine for and that kind of thing.
It must have been quite difficult to approach because obviously, like you've said, they don't have any of that stuff. Only humanoid people do. But then generally, if you have an area like this, you normally fill it with pots and pans and food and stuff, and you had to find the right reasons for them to actually be there and not have a completely negative space.
That's exactly right. And, there's also a question of how much, you want to do it in a way that's efficient for, we develop this game. We don't have infinite time and infinite budget, right? So you have to call your shots pretty. Sorry, yes. Jeremy has infinite time and infinite budget.
Gotcha.
I get a finite amount of time
Let's
and a finite amount
jump to
of
the
budget.
shambles while we're talking. I want to
Jeremy's
make sure we
Okay.
can-
I'm guessing some of the Daedra won't be happy to see you. Some will
Exactly.
tolerate you, but others would be.
We're going to the wrong side of town, actually.
Mm.
So
Nice.
we wanted to indicate that there wasn't everybody living in harmony and peace in the city. There's these outskirts. The idea that the desert that surrounds Fargrave sometimes lays claim to various ruins or various parts of the city and leaves them sort of derelict. And then there's people who occupy those because they're not really fit or willing to obey the laws of Fargrave. Fargrave actually has a very strict set of laws that govern the Daedra who live there, because Daedra are magical. They're kind of like unable to break the laws, so to speak. It's called the stricture, from a lore perspective is what we called it. Like, they're magically forced to, they can't do harm. They can't try to summon a Daedric prince into the middle of their city and ruin it for everybody. Mortals don't have that problem because they're not intrinsically, like, they're not magical beings. So they're often kind of treated with suspicion, and a lot of them end up being pushed out to live here in the outskirts, which we call the shambles.
Let me cut in.
Yeah.
We are looking at the hostile part.
Yep.
We actually had to think about what Daedra would think about justice, though. So when we were in the city, Daedra don't think of justice in the same way. So there's some things that they just don't care about. In here, they just don't care about you, period. So they're just going to try and kill you. But when we're in the city, justice still works, but they don't really care about werewolves. They don't care about vampires as much because it's less of a threat. Because if you think about it, inherently, a Daedra doesn't care about death because death is an inconvenience. They're going to come back. It just means that you got rid of them for a bit. So we kind of had to rethink some of that, and you'll see some of that in our justice. I mean, we didn't, throw out our justice and, start over, but they don't always react the same way you would expect them to if you are, shanking somebody in the base game.
Right, they might not cower, for example. One thing I'll call out while we butcher this poor clan fear. Also, you can see on your compass, if you haven't collected it already, there is a sky shard icon, which is
that's
part
really
of our
nice
new
to add in that.
sky shard system. Right. So when you get close to a sky shard, just like any kind of map icon in our game, it'll show up on your compass, and then it's up to you to sort of triangulate where it is. The clue will display above your compass as well, and that will give you more information about where to start looking. And obviously, there's the telltale beam of light that you can focus in on as well. And that's not just for the sky shards in U30 or in the Deadlands and Fargrave. It's for everywhere, I believe, in the base game as well. So I just wanted to call that out as a cool feature. But yeah, so the shambles, players will come in and out of here on quests. There's crafting locations and other points of interest as well for them to take in. And they'll also have to contend with the various gangs that control territory in here, including a group of Dagon cultists that they'll have to grapple with over the course of the zone story.
So with them not having the same rules for justice and stuff, I take it that means you don't necessarily get chased down as much as you normally would. Do they still have any justice system at all for you?
There is absolutely a justice system. There are certain we call them ability crimes. So like Jeremy was suggesting, turning into a werewolf or a bone colossus if you're a necromancer does not report bounty. You don't accrue that. But like if you steal or if you kill, like that will absolutely get the guards on your tail.
Right. So good and bad is only really gauged by whether you steal something or not, rather than your choice of good and evil as far as a character is concerned, like what you look like.
That was super quick.
That was pretty quick.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. One thing I might say about the Deadlands, justice also slightly different than the Deadlands, loosely the same, but in case we can't find one, there is a new type of beast. The Deadlands isn't safe. It's called the Havocral Executioner. So if you are in the way, it's going to kick your butt. So we have changed justice a bit when it comes to the Deadlands because for the most part, Mehrunes Dagon doesn't care about justice.
Yeah, so we're now in the half of our Deadlands zone. It's called. So this is based on the traditional lava, fire, hellscape visuals that we've seen in Elder Scrolls Oblivion. We gave this place the name the Burn to contrast with the other half of the zone, which is visually pretty distinct. You might be familiar with it already if you've been playing on PTS. It's just called we call that one the Sever, and it's much more about storms and shearing winds and so on. And the idea is that each of these locales is embodying the Prince of Destruction, Cataclysm, natural disasters, just in different ways. Dagon is also the Prince of Revolution, which is why the lava imagery is so important. Like stuff melts into the lava, but lava also builds islands and so on. So we really wanted to capture that with both of these biomes, and we'll see in the Sever, like there's winds that'll just scour a rock down to nothing, but there's also like mineral pools where you see stuff starting to build up as well, and that cycle of like destruction and rebirth constantly repeating itself. But it's not safe, like Jeremy was saying. So there's a lot of enemies here. There's not a lot of safe harbor to find, you know, a place to rest and repair. We do have a few of those set up for players that need to take a break from all the monsters that they'll encounter. But, you know, in general, the Deadlands is not going to be a walk in the park. And even the safe roads, as Jeremy said, are patrolled by our...
Whoa.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Oh, did you find him?
We did not find him. We did get an Ash Titan, though.
Okay, all right, that's a big
We have
step.
a
Yeah.
Nigel just jumped on our head.
Ooh.
Yes, this is not, you know, this is not home.
Yep.
Things are not nice here. When you're in the Deadlands, you're deep in enemy territory, and there are no safe roads. There is a safe section.
Right, that's where we're making our way there as we speak.
I love the fortress on the hill as well, and the sense of scale with that. Like, you can just tell how massive it is in the distance.
Yeah, we knew immediately that we wanted to just create these imposing structures for all the various like prisons and camps and things that Mehrunes Dagon has. We're in combat. What's the deal? Let's just...
This may be one of our bugs.
We have, yes, been tracking an issue.
You can't say the B word.
Not bugs, just
It's not
features.
magic.
No, it's okay. It's a safe place. This is ETS. This is our public test server. We're doing the best we can. We'll get there.
It's an Oblivion
yeah.
feature.
Don't tell yes, feature. That's because it is important you complete whatever combat you clearly missed.
All right. Well, we're gonna head over on foot, and hopefully we'll lose
It's not
aggro.
far.
In any event, yeah. So we knew that Mehrunes Dagon, in addition to the landscape itself, has these massive towers in Oblivion. They were integral to the Oblivion Crisis, right? The Sigil Towers, and we wanted to pay homage to that, but also respect that this is a different plot. He's got different irons in the fire this time around. So we kind of created this network of causeways and towers that dot the landscape. They're not quite the same. They don't serve the same magical function. Several of them are actual like institutions, for lack of a better term. He has some citadels that players will go to, these twin cities, as well as camps and jails and things like that, which are sort of places where Mehrunes Dagon has enemies that obviously are more than just human. Like, he'll have Daedra that he has, decided are on his bad side. Places where he can't just kill everybody because, like we said, Daedra come back. So he has to build these places to kind of deal with those enemies.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Into the new
I mean,
area?
you carry on, but I forgot that you brought back Manticoras.
Yeah, so Manticoras, we are in the new biome, Jeremy, incidentally. So our Manticoras, yeah, we really love these enemies. We wanted to come up with a way, so our, the Dagonic cults have obviously infiltrated the Scaled Court and taken the alchemical formulae for Manticoras and have bent it to Mehrunes Dagon's will.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah. Getting close. Yeah.
Yeah, they're
Right.
just such fun mobs.
They are. They're super interesting to fight. And I love their profile. It's super iconic. And we love to set them up in what we call our kaiju battles, which is what we just interrupted. Harvester versus Manticora and Desperate Battle. All right, so here we are. Like I said, there's not many safe spots in the Deadlands, but this is basically the biggest one. It's called Wretched Spire. You can see it's got a spire. Looks fairly wretched. It is
Whoa.
not. Yeah.
That's really
so
cool.
All the way up.
Yep. So the astute observer might notice that is Dunmer architecture, which pays off a lore note for Mehrunes Dagon from the first era, which is his attack on the city of Mournhold, and he
No
kind
way.
of broke off a piece of that Kit Kat bar, and yep, and people ended up building around it, and so that's where that became sort of literally the hub for this settlement And you can see it's all ramshackle and kind of cobbled together. And people here barely subsist because even if you are, you know, free from attack, it's not like the Deadlands is necessarily resource rich. You know, you're eating spittle sticks and harada root, probably drinking this weird green sludge water that's all over the landscape. But it is a place where players can, you know, rest and get supplies and repair all sorts of stuff. There's quests here too. Obviously, the main quest uses this place as a hub for when when players have to do a lot of work in the Deadlands. So it's definitely a place that players will come back to and visit many times. And it represents another, like, Fargrave has like a tentative peace between mortals and Daedra who live there. This settlement is much more contested, I would say. There's a lot of disagreements about who should be here and how things should be run, and that's something that comes up much more in the zone story.
Well, that's also one of the major pieces of the objective quest.
Sorry, that's what I mean. Yes, it comes up in the objective for this particular area. So I was also alluding to the cities, the institutions of the Deadlands, so to speak. One of the things we're going to go now to find is, you know, does Dagon have a capital? And the answer is yes and no. So he actually has two places that we consider like the capital cities of the Deadlands, and these are like basically like fortresses of doom and gloom. You know, cities very much in quotes here, but they're these places where, you know, Dagon can plot and plan and raise his armies and get ready for his various assaults on Tamriel and the other planes of Oblivion as well. Because our take on Mehrunes Dagon is that he wants everything to be destroyed, right? Like, it's not just Tamriel that's caught his eye. It happens to be one of the, you know, the jewels in his crown, so to speak, or is what he wants to be a jewel in his crown. But yeah, I think we want him to, you know, really embody this cosmic force of destruction and rebirth, you know, really exploring not him just as a giant four-armed demon man, but like as sort of a cosmic force of destruction in the way that, like, you know, Galactus might be considered and so on. But as we make our way, we get to see sort of more of the various environmental designs. You know, these looming jagged spires of rock are really, I think, key to make the landscape feel threatening and untenable. And one of the cool things I'll point out as well, that this is really exemplified in a mountain that we call Annihilarch Summit. Annihilarch being a combination of Annihilate and Monarch, which players go to on the zone story, and it's like this giant, desperate mountain climb to get to top where the Dagonic cultists have their evil plans. Just passing this I really love this. The Tempest engine is one of our just points of interest, and we have cultists working on the storm magic. Yeah, it's so awesome. Our environment artists and our world builders and our encounter team really just crushed this zone. I think some of our, I'm biased, of course, being a zone lead, but I think it's some of our best stuff. Absolutely.
One of the coolest things that I love about it is it's not just lava all the time. It shows other aspects. And that was something that was important to us. Obviously, the Deadlands will have lava, but just because that's what you've seen, I mean, Daedric lands they're infinite. What you could see is really awesome, and we wanted to make sure we paid off the idea that it wasn't just lava and harada root all the time.
People love harada root, Jeremy.
Don't get me wrong. You need to have
like,
some
more
of that
harada
too.
root, please. Yeah.
Well, also, like,
you
you see some of those traps that you saw in Oblivion, too, so we want to pay that off. But, yeah, that's not just it. Mind you, mock me if you will. Or, please, continue. Totally cool.
Right,
Sure.
So it's obviously always a balancing act between embracing where the series came from, right, but still wanting to forge our own path and bring the series lore forward. So, like Jeremy said, like, you'll still see those traps that you saw when you were in Oblivion, but you'll also see new things like the Tempest engine or these gates. This is Destruction Solace. So you can kind of see it just keeps going on and on in the distance. You can see more towers and bridges and so on. This is one of the places that you go for a final confrontation with a certain Daedric prince who will go unnamed, but I imagine you can guess. It rhymes with
I wonder
Mehrunes
who.
Dagon. Yeah. The idea for us was that these two cities of the Deadlands are adjacent to each other. Not only adjacent, Jeremy really had this awesome idea of having Destruction Solace sort of overlook the other city, which we'll swing by on our way down, Ardent Hope, because hope and destruction are these two key phrases that keep coming up in the lore of Mehrunes Dagon, and we wanted to kind of, sell the idea that there is hope in Mehrunes Dagon's realm, but its destruction is always looming on top of it. And you can see when you're in Destruction Solace down into Ardent Hope and vice versa. And it's always kind of these towers looming over you. Like destruction is always just like hanging like a sword of Damocles over the heads of those who come here. But they're also conceptually pretty different cities. Like they're all Daedric architecture, but we wanted Ardent Hope to be like a hive of activity. It's constantly like a war machine being spun up, like there's troops being outfitted, there's forges firing, and then Destruction Solace is much more of like the aftermath. It's where Dagon kind of can bask in all of the mayhem and ruin that he has caused. One city is basically the anticipation of destruction, and the other city is the aftermath of destruction. And I think that, again, showing like two different sides of Mehrunes Dagon. It's all still focused around the central kernel of his role as like this patron of ruin and desolation, but just the various ways we can express that, with the amount of energy that a space connects or emotes and so on. Is it still? Is it frenzied? Is it crowded? Is it silent? Like we really wanted to explore all those ins and outs when we were building these areas. We are now skirting the walls of Ardent Hope, like I was saying. This is one of the other two major objectives. We can see a desperate orc woman who needs our help infiltrating the walls. This isn't just a place that you can go up and open the door. Mehrunes Dagon is very much in charge in his realm, and he doesn't brook trespassing.
I jumped to the blood pit. Time, if you want to jump to me.
Sure. Do you guys like blood?
Sounds like a welcoming place.
I love pits.
Yeah, here for the blood, but I stay for the pits. All right, let's jump to Jeremy. All right, I'm sorry. We're actually right next to the blood pit, so we should be okay.
All right, keep running. You just did it from the other side. All good. Just trying to make sure we get to see all the cool stuff we want to see.
Exactly. Yeah. So the blood pit is, I think, probably the place we'll have the last stop on our tour. People laughed when I said we were going to call this place the blood pit. Well, who's laughing now? Because that name is final. We wanted to create sort of a, it's part of the, it's not its own location. It's built into the overland of the space, but it's very much like a distinct area. It is our prison for, well, like I was saying earlier, the people that Mehrunes Dagon, for one reason or another, can't just kill. Like he either wants them to suffer or they're dangerous, so they'll come back to life. But it's it is a jail, and it's a labor camp. It's where he gets the materials for his armies, and where he can punish those who have wronged him in various ways. The players are going to come here on the zone story. We have a daily that runs them in and out of here as well, and it's just a really striking visual difference because so much of the Deadlands is about verticality. You get
hit by a tower.
Yeah, so you got to watch where you stand, because it's not just plants that'll get you. It's these little or it's these flame turrets will hit you as well.
They were in that. Well, they they were in there. That's where they came from. But yeah, they've been in before. That's pretty cool.
So players can come in here. No, I mean, I just wanted to indicate, so much of like the verticality in the Deadlands is about climbing. We have mountains you climb, spires you climb. I just really love how claustrophobic and threatening it feels when you're descending into the pits of the Deadlands as well. Like the blood pit is very much about descending downwards. And the literature major in me, obviously, Dante's Inferno and the layers of hell kind of comes to mind whenever I come in here. Sorry.
Yeah, it's very threatening in here.
Yes.
I think it's towering walls around us that really make a difference too. I feel very
Yeah,
small.
and all the hooks and blades. Yep. We have another location that gives us a similar sentiment. I think it's one of our 2 delves. We call the Brandfire Reformatory, and it's like it's where Dagon's mortal cultists hold sway, and they bring all the people that have defected or are threatening to leave the cult, and they get reprogrammed to become just good little cultists of Mehrunes Dagon again. I think it's just such a good blend of the natural elements of the space as well as the clearly defined architecture to make it feel overpowering and brutal.
It's been a lot of fun kind of actualizing these new areas.
Portals.
Yeah.
Anything else we want to show them? I think that was most of our kind of tour spots.
Oh, were you looking at the new portal type? I just wanted to call that out really quick. Something near and dear to my heart are puzzles, and this is a visual precursor to a puzzle that you'll find later on in a quest here, which is what I call a Daedric battery puzzle. So they're kind of these logic puzzles. They involve like taking crystals and powering them up with energy and using them to activate portals and things. And so that's what this is, sort of a mini tutorial. Players will see that this is a portal that they can use. They click on it, this is what it looks like. So that's sort of one of the reasons that we included it here instead of the traditional fiery red orb. Anyway, weird tangent, but I just wanted to call it out.
It's a good call out. Yeah, the battery puzzle is something fun that we've kind of moved forward in a lot of the areas, so it'll be kind of neat to see how people think.
Creating one cohesive puzzle that we can, a language of puzzle rather, that we can use all over the zone. And now I'm gonna say hi to 5X the Oppressor.
Is there more we wanted to show? I feel like that's most of it.
Yeah, I think that's more or less everything that I was planning on guiding us to. Now I'm just hitting the knees of this poor Havocryl. Stabbing him right in the ACL.
So there's a number of other areas. We went to just one of the objectives. We didn't hit any of the delves or the group bosses. We kind of hinted at, Dagon's home base or citadel, if you will. That's both one of our objectives as well as a key bit in the zone story. I mean, we're super jazzed to, show you all this. We've been, spending a long time working on it, and it's nice to show it off. We're pretty pleased with it. I think it's a good addition, and I think it's going to be a great conclusion to the end of the year. Did you have any questions you wanted to ask us?
Well, first of all, there is a lot to do because every area does seem completely different, and just although they are obviously supposed to feel claustrophobic, there's a lot going on. But can you talk about the roaming bosses?
Oh, sure. I'll hit that. I won't speak too much.
That's quite a new thing.
So one of the things that was important to us was the idea that Daedra are not like humans. They're humanoids. Humans isn't even the right term for our universe. But they're not like any of those things because they're more like Daedra. Daedra don't care about safe roads. So it felt like this was more akin to like a Blackreach area where you could wander around here and there might be a couple safe locations, but there's no guards that are making sure you're safe. And then we actually kind of doubled down on that. Clearly it was intentional, but not entirely. The idea was how could we pay this off? And one of the ideas was that there's Dagon's guards effectively, but they don't care about justice for the most part. They're just big ass bosses. And if you happen to be wandering around their land, you probably shouldn't be there and they'll kill you. We actually thought about how we wanted to work this out. One of the thoughts initially was if you had bounty, but that didn't feel Daedra-like. What does a Havocryl care that I stole, a shoe in the next zone over? That's just silly. So they just don't care. You're just kind of beneath their notice until you happen to get in their way because you're on their path. To that point, first, no safe roads in the Deadlands period. But we do try and give you kind of the idea that if you want to, take a break, which everybody does, just step off the path a bit. And there's some key locations where you could, but at the end of the day, always just pay attention to where you are. So that's kind of where it started. Initially, we said, hey, you have big justice values, but that didn't feel right. So in the end, we just said, hey, this is one of Dagon's guards, and he just says, you're not where you're supposed to be. And it became kind of a cool, honestly, I have wanted to do it for a while. This is your roaming boss. We don't get a chance to do that often. Don't quote me on it, and you totally will, but there's 2, maybe 3 of them in the zone. They're not all over. But they have discrete paths with the idea that they guard certain portions of the zone.
Fighting on a path, you've obviously noted yourself it's new. That's going to be very unusual for long-term players to get to grips with, because usually you do tend to stay on the road. And now if you do, you're dead.
Right.
you're dead.
It's akin to Blackreach. It just felt right. Just like, and this is one of those where no matter how we did it, it didn't obey the rules. It's just not part of the rules, So that's why Tom, and he gets major credit here. He talked about, the rules for the Deja. I'm blanking on it. What's it called?
Stricture.
The stricture. The idea that they understand things, but it's not because they're humanoid, but because they just can't kill each other every time they run into each other. It makes more sense in the context of people that live forever. We can't constantly kill each other because we're,
it never ends.
Yeah, you can't punish them by death.
So it's been a fun thing to run through. I think we've done it justice. So we'll see. We're running. We've only got a few minutes. Any other questions?
Just really about the bosses that are walking around on paths again. Where can we expect them to spawn? Will they always patrol the same areas, or will they switch up their paths? And how will we know when they spawn? Will they holler out a dramatic boss line or something?
When you are close to one, they do have a line that will play. They're also pretty striking effects. They have this distinct glow, kind of similar to the Oblivion portal events, which are also reprised from Blackwood. They are going to be in the Deadlands Overland as well. So you will, I think it's pretty clear when one is on your path and you're within striking distance of it. Striking distance maybe not the best term here. When you're adjacent to it, and otherwise it's sort of meant to be something that's much more organically discovered or coordinated between players in the zone. Which is actually one of the fun things at the beginning of PTS, was seeing all the people be like, anyone got eyes on an executioner? And,
I really liked that with the Oblivion portals as well. People have to communicate if they want to say, there's a portal spawning here. Whereas if it's on the map, it doesn't force people to talk to each other, which of course is our favorite thing about playing an MMO, is communication with the players.
The idea of a roaming boss has been something that we have had near and dear to our hearts for a while. So it's kind of a cool step into that direction.
Yeah, that was.
We did spend a fair amount of time talking about how we messaged that and making sure it felt fair to the player.
Yeah, because the way you've done it now is kind of a step up from where you went with the dragons initially and elsewhere.
Yep, yeah, you're right. No, the dragons.
They roamed to an extent, but they had specific spots, didn't they?
Yep, yeah, and this one, from a player standpoint, the big reveal for this zone, which is no different than Blackwood, is don't just assume because you're standing on the road that you're good. And there have always been safe roads and not safe roads, because that's the way our game works. But we have tried to think more about that. So hopefully you'll find that little camp where the merchant hangs out,
Nice.
and you can step off to the side of the path. So, but the big thing is, if you walk away to go get a drink and you're on the safe road, it's not a safe road. It's in the Deadlands.
Okay, it's really random, but I saw earlier that there were loads of lightning strikes and whirlwinds and stuff going around, slightly off the path and everything. Are they specific to kind of designated spawn points, or do they get a little bit random?
They
So the reason I'm asking that is because if you AFK usually, you're normally fine. But I mean, if they're random, that means if you do put the control down and walk off, you're probably going to end up getting shot by lightning.
I believe that they are randomized, but within a fairly denoted radius.
So if you don't
So,
know
like-
about it, you could end up dead anyway.
Yes, just like real life.
If you see them, move on. If you don't see them, you're probably fine. But that's actually really good feedback, dude. We can take a look at that so we can make sure that it's clear to the players. That said, we're getting to the point where that feedback starts going on the live as opposed to PDF,
Mm-hmm.
which is exciting.
I just
I'm
have a
kidding.
cheeky question, which you might not be able to answer yet, maybe. But we've seen the portals in Fargrave. Is it possible that we're able to access these other parts of Oblivion from there? Is it possible we might be able to go to the realms of other Daedric princes in the future?
I will answer that, so I am the one that causes the problem. I 100% love that idea. Like, love with, like, underline. The idea that this is a place that is a nexus between the Daedric realms. We don't, and, don't tell anybody, but we don't have any current plans to use that in the future. But the idea that this is a place I could go to that is outside of the realms of these other Daedric princes and then go to them is so cool to me. Yeah, that's something we are embracing. We don't quite how we're going to use it, but that is the entire point of making sure that the Deadlands and Fargrave are on separate spots in the Orbis so that we could go to the Orbis. Yeah, again, no promises, but in the next year as the next place, because this is a place that is not specific to the Deadlands. It's specific to leaving Tamriel. So it's a good launch point. No promises we'll use it, but I love that idea. I'm not even going to pretend.
I think my chat just kind of ran with that idea, and they were all like, "Oh, we're going to the Shivering Isles. Can we go to Evergloam? Like, can we go to Sangreens
No
realm?"
promises. I swear, no promises. Don't
So I
give me a
had to
promise.
ask, otherwise they'd get me.
No, that's great. Like I said, I love that idea, and part of it was we wanted to make sure there was a place for you to be able to go that was not a specific Daedric princess or a specific DLC chapter, etc. It's a place that is, agnostic to that to some extent. So yes, we built that deliberately. Will we use it? I want to. In the future, it seems likely. Do we have a specific plan? Not as far as you know.
Interesting. Yeah. And I like the idea of Fargrave as like a safe spot. If all of these zones are intentionally very dangerous, I think it'll encourage that city to be very busy and full of players. Whereas in a lot of the older content, sometimes those cities get a bit quieter if there's not a special event on.
Yeah.
So be nice to see Fargrave like really bustling with people as well.
That was part of the thought of it's a nexus location. We can add additional portals. We can talk about different stories. As I said, at the moment, we're focusing on this current one. But the idea that it's a place that is agnostic is definitely something that we find appealing. So fun to come to an area that we haven't really been in and totally explore it. Yeah, Tom said it, but our world building team, our level design team is freaking phenomenal. And when they do, because they always do, the art support, it is so cool to see what happens out of the result.
Definitely.
The zones are stunning as well, and so much bigger than I thought they would be for a DLC. Like there's so much landmass to explore. So good job, art team.
Awesome. We will pass that along. I really would love to hear it.
A super quick one. People were talking about the possibility of sharing builds now that you have the armoury system, and if you made a really cool build and you wanted your friend to use it to try it out, is that something you've ever thought about doing in the future?
Well, first, I am the story guy, as is Tom. The answer is hell if we know.
Yeah.
As somebody that might have slightly more, we love the idea, like 100%. Where we're going to go in the future, we'll see, but we wanted to get the system in and see how that worked. But that was, I'm not going to pretend, it was like my second or third thought at best.
You're the Lornards. I'm a Lornard too, so I've enjoyed hearing all the extra stuff about the zone from you guys too.
Awesome. I can't tell you how much fun it is. We spend so long not being able to talk about it. It is so fun to be able to show people.
It is honestly so great to put this in front of people that haven't been working on it.
All right, let's bail, or I'll ask you to ask another question, and then I would feel bad. For
Do it.
Thank you. This was wonderful.
Thank you so
Well,
much.
thank
That
you
was
very
awesome.
much.
And there we go, our whirlwind tour of the Deadlands DLC areas. If you don't follow me on Twitch already, do come and find me over on twitch.tv/Dawnwhisper. I'll be playing a lot of this when it comes out. I do love my story, so I'm saving that for live servers. There is an NPC behind me who I'm really tempted to talk to, but we're saving it for live. So if you want to come over and hang out in my streams, you'd be very welcome there. Thanks again to the devs for showing us around. It was a really good tour, and I also got a lot of lore that I didn't know about previously as well. What are you most looking forward to in the DLC? Let me know in the comments down below. Or if you had a question you would have asked the devs, let me know what it was in the comments. My brain just froze and I was like, oh my god, I was just kind of stunned by the beauty of the zones. But yeah, let me know what questions you'd ask the devs if you had a chance. But for now, thanks so much for watching. Thank you to the devs for putting up with me on our tour. And hopefully this has given you a bit of insight as to what is on the way.